Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm the Guepratte Major, and this is a review of the British Tier 3 premium battleship HMS Bellerophon, available for 3,700 doubloons during the Halloween patch. Now, this is a Tier 3 and 4 game of Domination on New Dawn. On the enemy team with a Wixes in division with a Ganga, Iaslav, Dugatruin, Isuchi, Azuchi, Koenig, New York, and Hosho. My pronunciations and some of these names may not be completely accurate because I don't usually play this tier that often. Anyway, HMS Bellerophon is the lead ship of her class, which consisted of 3 ships which were built pre-World War One. Bellerophon was actually commissioned in February 1909. Now, they did serve through the First World War, and Bellerophon was a survivor of the Battle of Jutland. However, following the First World War, obviously she slowly became outdated and she was scrapped in November 1921. So, as always, in comparison to the Tech Tree Tier 3 battleships, let's start off with survivability. And we have a DD spotted, so we need to really prioritise that. Hopefully we can get some hits with this. Oh no, he slowed down. Neptune's beard, oh well. So, you have the lowest base HP of 38,100. You also have the second lowest HP pool of 54,060. You do have an above average torpedo reduction of 13%, however. Now, when it comes to the armour, it's always best to go back to the armour view and take a look at the armour back there. So, back in the port, taking a look at the armour scheme of the Bellerophon. So, let's start off with the superstructure, and it's pretty typical stuff, I would say. The majority of it is 30mm of plating, so that is basically harvestable to a majority of gun calibers, and practically all gun calibers, let's say. And there is obviously the command citadel, which is up front behind a turret, but that doesn't really necessarily have much impact on the overall characteristics of the superstructure. Another one to get out of the way nice and quick is the torpedo bulge. Obviously it is below the water because that's where torpedoes come from, and it covers obviously from in front of A turret to behind Y turret, and it's an interesting general plating, I guess you could say, but we can take that away as you're not really going to be having much interaction with that while playing the game. Now, moving on to the bow and the stern plating. The upper part of it is only 18mm thick, which is only really able to resist about 4-inch high explosive shells, but not a lot else. So pretty much the upper bout and the nose and the upper deck and all that can be penetrated by practically all calibers of shells, including AP. So that does mean that she can be quite squishy, I guess you could say. There's not exactly a lot of armour on the outside, as you can see, that you can actually use to angle this ship against incoming fire. So taking those away, quite an interesting one here that we're seeing with the upper arm bout is that there's these little inner belts, I guess you could say, of like 25mm plating, which is capable of ricocheting 14-inch guns. So potentially there is some armour there to resist incoming shells, but it's actually already behind other armour. So that does mean that shells will be entering your ship and detonating within your ship, therefore causing damage. And again, the upper armour deck and the upper armour bow is only 90mm thick, apart from a bit of plating which is 254mm thick, which is on either side of P and Q turrets. Going on to the upper armoured belt, I guess you could say. So first of all, you've got like a well, I should say lower armoured belt of about 203 to 254mm thick, which is on the outside. But it's worth noting that furthermore, you also have a 32mm internal turtle back, I guess you could say, potentially. How far that turtle back actually goes back is hard to tell, but you can kind of see here that it does actually kind of exist. And the front of these plates as well has 25mm, and on the stern you got a bit more as well. So potentially this ship is actually better armoured with her stern towards the enemy than having her bow towards the enemy, which would again play into her hands a little bit, considering that if you're kiting away from the enemy, driving away from the enemy, you can kite and always bring about 3 turrets to bear on the target at all times. Obviously, subject to where a turret is, you might be able to bring a 4th turret to bear. Whereas kiting on your nose, you can always bring 2 turrets to bear, maybe 4, depending on where X and Y turrets are. Taking that away, what we're looking at the turrets, well, we're looking at typical battleship armour all over, nothing really to add. It's simply just down to RNG when it comes to turret incapacitations, I guess you could say. So the Citadel, well, there's some kind of good news here, I guess you could say. The Citadel is at waterline. Potentially it might have a bit of a turtle back protecting it from the sides, but it's not going to be much of a turtle back, I guess you could say. And it is generally covered in 30mm plating, sometimes a bit more here and there. It's got a funny bit of like an angle at the front, which is quite intriguing, and then at the stern there's not really much to add. So in regards to the armour scheme of the Bellerophon, I would say she's probably going to be difficult to get citadeled, but at the same time she's also going to take a lot of damage elsewhere on the ship because of that generally super squishy upper armoured section, I guess you could say, and especially if you chuck in the superstructure like that, it's all very super squishy, therefore you're going to be taking a lot of damage to the hull. But overall it seems like an interesting armour scheme, and it reminds me very much of, like, if you've got a squishy ship, you probably want to be playing at ranges or making sure you're picking out those 1v1s. Anyway, time to go back to the game. Well, welcome back. So let's move on to the artillery while we see what kind of evasive manoeuvres we can do against the incoming carrier aircraft, I guess you could say. So she has 10 number 12-inch guns mounted in 5 dual gun turrets. We have a turret up front, we have X and Y turret at rear, all on the centre line, and then we have P and Q turret, which are wing mounted turrets either side of the funnels up front. This does mean that out of your 10 guns you can only actually bring about one of these guns will always not be able to do a broadside, is the best way to put it. So you'll only ever be able to bring, say, 8 guns to bear onto a broadside. Well, we did finally eat a torpedo, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we did our best, I guess you could say. Now, you have the second shortest range of 13.6 kilometers, which is a little bit on the low side, I guess you could say. You do have an average reload of 30 seconds, and the second slowest turret reverse speed of 60 seconds per 180 degrees of rotation. So do expect to be able to outturn your turrets. Now you do have the joint highest HE shell damage of 5,200, and the joint third highest fire chance of 32%. You do have the joint second lowest AP shell damage of 8,100, which I guess is quite typical when you consider that she also will probably have British short fuse AP. Now when it comes to the DPMs, you have the second lowest HE DPM, second lowest fires per minute, and you also have the lowest AP DPM. I was kind of hoping the Cannonier would stay broadside on. Furthermore, it looked like the carrier was going to probably pester me again, so I was expecting to have to deal with that, but carrier's aircraft are nowhere to be seen, and the Cannonier angled up, unfortunately. Going on to the manoeuvrability, this is a little bit intriguing, I guess you could say. She is the second fastest at 24 knots, which is a lot higher than her historical top speed of 21 knots. She also has the smallest turning circle of 560 meters, and she has the fastest rudder shift of 10.1 seconds. But at the moment I seem to be just soaking up the aircraft from the enemy aircraft carrier. But at least he's keeping busy on me, I guess you could say, rather than someone else. I think we're going to eat another torpedo there. It's going to be time to start focusing on the Azur, I guess you could say. There we go. Now, concealment wise, you do have the second best detectability by sea of 12.4 kilometers. And you have a detection by air of 10 kilometers. Is there another torpedo plane? I don't know. And when firing smoke, your detectability is 9.9 kilometers. So I'm just using the lock gun view to see where the aircraft is, but looks like the Ganget's firing on me as well. We're clear of that, okay. I think the reason why I'm getting a little bit lucky at the moment is because I have done what the Garrison Major does when it comes to a ship, and that's gone for a speed build. So I do have a Zerlane hood on here, and she is obviously allowing me to motor around at a speed about 28 plus knots is what she's achieving me at the moment. Consumable wise, I guess obviously first of all we have enhanced secondary targeting, which you get a free number of. That just does the usual stuff. There's nothing really to add on in regards to that, I guess you could say. You also get free repair parties base. These will heal 190 HP per second for 28 seconds, which will mean that each repair party will be able to recover a total of 5,320 HP. Now this has an 80-second reload. You also have a standard damage control for a British battleship, which is 15 seconds duration and an 80-second reload, and an infinite number of those to use. Now, because she's a premium, she's a little bit interesting down here at Tier 3. She comes with 4 module slots, which obviously means that she can do a little bit more than the standard tech tree when it comes to those regards. So, in the modules wise, I've taken Aiming Systems, Module 1 as my first module, which is the standard module that all battleships at Tier 3 can take. But when it comes to the other ones, you've got additional 3 more to pick. So, I've gone for Propulsion Module 2, because it's a speed build. I've gone for Target Acquisition Systems Module 1 because that's a compulsory third module, I guess you could say. And then for the fourth one, I've taken Artillery Plotting Rooms Module 2. The reason being is it just makes these 12-inch guns just that little bit more accurate, I guess you could say. In regards to being a premium, she also furthermore comes with a Type 9 permanent camouflage, so obviously that does mean that she's got a slightly enhanced concealment all the time, because that permanent camouflage is just always equipped, I guess you could say. I should be clear of the island. No, I'm not. It looks like I'm clear of the island based on the mini-map, but it looks like it doesn't. It crops out a little bit further, so potentially the mini-map on this map might not be completely lined up with the actual map. This might hurt, so I think I'm just going to have to start tucking it in, I guess you could say. Do one more HE, I think we'll switch to AP. Now, if you want to see my command build, it will be down in the description. I have used a Zerlane hood. The reason why is because Zerlane hood does offer you that Royal Navy glory, which really does enhance battleship speed. If you don't have Zerlane hood but you want to use a speed build commander, I would probably either recommend like using Jericho, because he offers you Velorutius, or if you want to go for something slightly different, you could potentially go for Bruce Fraser, because he would offer you his base trait and Velorutius. It just means that you might have some slightly odd traits to pick from instead. We're offering broadside to that Azuchi while we have this Azuchi, so we are pretty much trapped in a very horrible crossfire. So whether we can actually get out of this with our life is going to be another question. But we will endeavour to see what we can do. Usually the Bellerophon does not like these kind of close quarters engagements, because it just means that every shell will hit, and every shell does hit obviously will penetrate and hurt. And while we're in secondary range, so I might as well turn on the enhanced secondaries, and I'm going to try and angle it a little bit, because there are parts of the armour where it will cause a bounce. And I think my aim is just to start using my acceleration and see if I can just get a bit more distance away from this Azuchi before I die. Unless shells coming from somewhere else, which looks like it's happening. Well, we found the citadel of the Azuchi. I'm going to do a quick hard to starboard. I'm going to hope that maybe I can avoid some incoming fire and get a repair party on the go. We might not clear the island. Again, the mini-map is being a little bit cruel in regards to what it shows to what is actually there. However, hoping on that repair party coming in, and hoping on that turning circle that we have, I might be able to just about clear the island. And on that bombshell, we have AP loaded, we have a broadside ship. I am going to damage control that one fire. And we are going to try and see if we can sulk off and get some repair parties done, just to try and recover what HP we can before we end up in another engagement. So, the reason why I've gone for a speed build on the Bellerophon is because she soaks up damage. I like to be able to try and dictate engagements. She's already got quite a high base speed, I guess you could say, so again that makes her another culprit for a speed build. But what I'd like to do potentially is try and keep my engagements as 1v1 where I can, use my speed to try and dictate those engagements, allow myself to disengage if I need to and things like that. So that's why I've gone for a speed build. And I think 28 knots for a tier 3 battleship with a full-on speed build with a Azur lane hood is actually quite tasty. It's just actively trying to dodge the incoming fire, which is again an interesting thing that you can do with the Bellerophon if you're at distance. Where we can finish off the Azur. Oh, she's flooded out, loading up HE. And I think we will have a tempting crack at maybe seeing if we can head back into Alpha, catch the flank of the Guepratte out, and get a repair party active. So as a tier 3 premium, obviously there's not many tier 3 premiums, especially when it comes to battleships. There's the Bellerophon and there's the Nauza, and I've reviewed the Nauza. The Bellerophon is certainly different, and I do quite like her. She probably will be becoming my go-to tier 3 premium, and she's the first British premium at tier 3 in the game, which I obviously much appreciate. And there goes the Wixes, so that just leaves the Guepratte. So we're using HE at this range, so getting our fire. And if the Guepratte offers us a bit of broadside, then we might look into using AP. In the meantime, we'll see if we can get this into a nice straight line and see what speed we max out at. So Guepratte's going to angle again, but we will use AP next volley. In the bottom right corner we've got to 27.8 knots. 28 knots, there we go. I think it's 28.7 I might max out at. We're up to 28.4 at the moment, which is quite tasty. And we might... there she goes. Very nice. I think we got Dreadnought there at the end as well, which is much obliged. So going on to the end screen, the review was obviously shorter than the game. The game was a little bit long in the tooth, I will confess, but 79,000 damage from 60 hits on target, 9 fires, 2 citadels, 4 secondary hits, shot down 8 aircraft as well, which is quite intriguing with the AA complement of the Bellerophon, because she's got like her mid-World War 1 AA build, where like her searchlights were removed and replaced with a 3-inch gun and another 3-inch gun mounted to the rear. But in general, the AA complement of the Bellerophon is actually pretty poor. But then again, she was in a war where air power wasn't necessarily the reaching arm of the Navy, I guess you could say. And so at the end of the day there, can't really complain with the Dreadnought medal as well. Team results come in second in the team, which I think is fair enough considering I was a little distracted, I have to confess. And it was... potentially a little seal clubbing maybe. Going on to the economy screen, walking away with a total profit of 132,000 credits after a ship service cost of 13,500 credits. So all in all, making a nice tidy profit, which I can't really complain about. All in all, an enjoyable little premium, I have to confess, and very tasty with a speed build. I would highly recommend it personally. Obviously, I would. But if you want, you can always check out my command build and the modules down in the description, along with the email address for the channel if you want to send any of your own game captures, and the link to Patreon if you want to support channel Patreon, as it is a non-monetized channel. Until next time, I'm the Gallop Major, and back to the port.
Hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the Galloping Major. Bumpity, 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 bump. Get out of the way there, you fellows, unless you want me to run you down. Yes, this is the life. Now, hey, hey, clear the way. Here comes the Galloping